In Palestine, over a dozen civilians, mostly children and women, were killed and others were injured Monday night in an Israeli airstrike that targeted a family home in the Sarvia neighborhood on Gaza. On Monday, the head of the Venezuelan government delegation for the dialogue, Jorge Rodriguez, confirmed that his country accepts the Norwegian invitation to verify Barbados Agreement with the opposition. In Peru, residents of the district of Machu Picchu continue on strike in rejection of the privatization of the sale of tickets to enter the Inca city. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, over a dozen civilians, mostly children and women, were killed and others were injured Monday night in an Israeli airstrike that targeted a family home in the Sabra neighborhood of Gaza City. Local sources reported Israeli bombardments hit a house in the Sabra neighborhood, killing at least 20 civilians and wounded several others. Israeli warplanes also launched an attack on the Nusayrat refugee camp in central Gaza. According to sources, the occupation artillery targeted the vicinity of a residential building in Khan Yunis in the south. The medical sources stated that the number of civilians killed since the beginning of the Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip on October 7th has reached 26,637, most of them children and women. In addition, at least 65,387 people were wounded and some 8,000 were reported missing. Palestinian authorities denounced the temporary suspension of aid to the United Nations agency that helps refugees in that Middle East country. The Commissioner General of that agency, Filipe Lazzarini, described as serious and highly irresponsible the actions of some countries that suspended funding to punish the entire community, serving that United Nations agency for accusations against a small group of people. He also underlined that the United Nations institution never received any reservations regarding specific workers. Lazzarini remembered that over 2 million people in Gaza depend on this agency, especially in times of war, displacement, and political crisis in the region. The official asked that the nations to reconsider its position. The Houthi movement in Yemen confirmed that they attacked on Sunday a U.S. military vessel in the Gulf of Aden in defense of the Palestinian people. Members of the movement reiterated that the new attack was part of the military measures taken by the Yemeni armed forces in defense of the country and in support of the Palestinian people. They also indicated that the attacked vessel was providing logistical support to the United States forces involved in the aggression against Yemen. They further assured that the Yemeni naval force will continue to prevent Israeli shipping to the occupied Palestinian ports until Israel stops the aggression and lifts the siege against the Gaza Strip. The craftsmanship of Syrian traditional blown glass is a tradition that at the end of 2023 was inscribed by UNESCO in the representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, an achievement that the Syrian Cultural Authorities celebrated with the organization in Damascus of an exhibition of glass products of this artistic craft. Let's see.
The exhibition, organized by the Syrian Ministry of Culture in cooperation with the Syrian Secretariat for Development, took place in the historic Knesset Vasha Caravanserai in the old city of Damascus. The event included the premiere of a documentary on this craft, which occupies a prominent position among the other components that make up the millenary civilized culture of Syria.
After this achievement, we have started a new phase of work that focuses on good management of this craft and good investment in it for the sake of Syrian artisans and for the benefit of society and the national economy through this artistic and creative handicraft production.
Glass blowing is an ancient craft, it's inherited from generation to generation, and it is a source of pride and joy to inscribe it on the list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This is an achievement that would help to increase the production of this manual work, that its various productions reach the whole world, and that the world see our artistic creativity in the production of blown glass pieces.
At the event, the brothers Ahmed and Mahmoud Al-Halak were honored for their role in the preservation of this endangered craft. Two veterans of Syrian craft skills, whose family is among the few Syrian families active in this field, and whose dedication, perseverance, and determination to train a new generation of young craftsmen have saved this age-old craft, which dates back to the 9th century BC, from the time of the Phoenicians.
Despite the difficult circumstances resulting from the war and the blockade, we have not stopped working and teaching our children and grandchildren this trade to preserve it, and we hope that now, with the support of the UNESCO, we will be able to expand our work and increase production. This recognition is not for me but for all of Syria for their determination during the long years of war, which was reflected in the commitment of the craftsmen who did not abandon their country despite all the difficulties and did not stop working, especially the artisans of blown glass. On their behalf, I thank everyone who helped us to preserve this craft.
The glass blowing technique is positioned in the list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, along with other elements of Syrian culture, as the damask rose, the shadow theater, the creation and interpretation of the Arabic oud, and the musical genre specific to the Syrian city of Aleppo, Al-Qud al-Alabia, symbols of Syria's rich and diverse civilized culture, which survived the foreign-imposed war and blockade and stand as living testimony to the failure of the plans of the terrorists and their Western financiers to erase the cultural identity of the Syrian people.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. On Monday, the head of the Venezuelan government delegation for the dialogue, Jorge Rodriguez, confirmed that his country accepts Norwegian invitation to verify Barbados Agreement with the opposition. In this regard, Rodriguez recalled the agreement subscribed by a sector of the Venezuelan opposition and the government of Venezuela, and highlighted the rejection to any act of violence against the institutions and the Venezuelan state. Rodriguez reiterated that the Barbados agreements contemplate an electoral, peaceful and participative political climate without external interferences. The President of the National Assembly highlighted the warranty of participation in these elections of any presidential candidate as long as he complies with the provisions of the law of the Republic.
We have responded to the facilitating delegation of the Kingdom of Norway that Venezuela is ready for the Commission for Verification and Follow-up of the Barbados Agreements to be set up. We have many things to show them. We have much to show in that Verification and Follow-up Commission, where Norway will be present, the facilitating countries, and of course the two delegations, the delegation of that sector of the Venezuelan opposition called La POT and the Venezuelan delegation, the delegation of the Bolivarian government of the Republic of Venezuela.
Also, the President of the Venezuelan National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, recalled that the Barbados agreements reject any form of political violence and foreign interference affecting the political and social climate favorable to this year's electoral process.
We reject any form of political violence against Venezuela, its state and its institutions. The parties will defend the promotion of a public discourse and a political and social climate favorable to the development of a peaceful and participatory electoral process without foreign interference. It is clearly stated in this agreement that external interference of any kind is not accepted.
In this context, the Ecuadorian Foreign Minister Gabriela Sommerfeld affirmed that the government of Daniel Noboa does not recognize the administration of the Venezuelan president, Nicolás Maduro. The position of Noboa's government regarding Venezuela is aligned with those established by his predecessors, Lenin Moreno and Guillermo Lasso. In an interview with the program Desde Adentro of the television network NTN24, the Ecuadorian foreign minister indicated that for Noboa in Venezuela, they do not respect free elections, nor are they living in full democracy. The statements of the Ecuadorian minister come after the Venezuelan Supreme Court confirmed the disqualification of the opposition Maria Corina Machado for public offices in that country. The Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, revealed last week plans of assassination attempts against President Nicolás Maduro and other authorities of the South American country, as well as espionage and terrorism activities involving Corina Machado. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador promised on Monday an investigation into the hacking of personal information of several hundred journalists from a government database. The statement was made during the president's morning news conference, where he blamed his political adversaries for the leak. The head of state acknowledged that either security failed or the hackers were very good, and said that his adversaries had a lot of money and were able to hire the most specialized criminals in the world. On Friday, a cybersecurity expert revealed that the names, identity documents, telephone numbers, and in some cases addresses of more than 300 journalists accredited to attend López Obrador's news conferences had appeared online. Media right group Article 19 said the leak could put reporters at risk and reminded that 163 journalists have been murdered in Mexico, while 32 still remain missing. The president of Guatemala, Bernardo Arévalo, stated on Monday that Attorney General Consuelo Porras refused to act by the law and he is analyzing the corresponding measures to be taken. In a press conference, the president explained that the invitation to the head of the public prosecutor's office was to establish an interinstitutional coordination on aspects of interest for the government. The meeting lasted 10 minutes because she presented her argument, showed no interest in what was being discussed, and then was asked to leave. The public request for Porras' resignation takes place after Arévalo's condemnation against the public prosecutor's office, investigations against his party, the Semilla movement, calling it the front line of a coup in progress. In Peru, residents of the district of Machu Picchu continue on strike in rejection of the privatization of the sale of tickets to enter the Inca city. Through a statement, the residents informed that they will intensify their pressure until the Ministry of Culture declares the nullity of the contract signed with the private company for the ticket sales. On the other hand, they urged the decentralized direction of culture to close the Inca city for safety reasons while the strike continues. The strikers will hold tourist agencies responsible for sending visitors to the district of Machu Picchu while the strike is in force. The officials of the Ministry of Culture have not reached an agreement with authorities or social organizations to establish a dialogue table to discuss the situation. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news, coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Belgian farmers blocked traffic on several of the country's highways on Monday to demand greater protection for the agricultural industries. One of the main roadblocks was carried out in the city of Namur, a junction point that connects the main highways of the country and links Brussels with Luxembourg, Germany, and France. According to local media, the farmers intend to keep this junction closed for at least 24 hours. They also plan to hold another roadblock near Brussels in the vicinity of the town of Halle, starting at 8 p.m. local time. The demonstrators assured that the protests will continue throughout the week until the government listens to their demands.
For now, today is the day to protest. We will take the necessary measures. We hope to be demonstrating until Thursday, and I think that on Thursday the question is whether we go to Brussels. Well, if I've received the right information, I think that's what it's all about.
On Monday, the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, unveiled Italy's big development plan for Africa at a summit of the continent's leaders. 24 African leaders, senior European Union and United Nations officials, and representatives of international lending institutions gathered in Rome for the summit, which is the first major event of Italy's group of 7 presidencies. The Italian Prime Minister said the summit is a successful first step that provides African leaders with a preliminary outline of Italy's philosophy backed up by concrete examples. However, the African Union Commission was more cautious and declared at the summit that the African countries would have linked to be consulted beforehand and did not want any more empty promises. Thus, as the summit got underway, the International Organization for Migration reported that nearly 100 people had died or gone missing in the Mediterranean Sea so far this year, twice as many in the same period last year, which was the deadliest since 2016. The heads of state of Russia and Belarus met on Monday to discuss ways to further expand their close alliance that has seen the deployment of some Russia's nuclear weapons on the territory of its neighbor. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko head the State Council of the Union between their countries. President Vladimir Putin prized bilateral cooperation despite unprecedented external pressure. For his part, President Alexander Lukashenko assured that the main task is to intensify cooperation in the field of import substitutions. Since the beginning of Moscow's special military operation in Ukraine, Russia and Belarus, one of the theaters of the operation, have been subjected to repeated sets of Western sanctions.
It is important that Russia and Belarus, under conditions of unprecedented external pressure, closely interact on the world stage, inevitably and invariably providing each other with genuine mutual support. As true allies, our country's outlook to current global and regional problems coincide or are largely similar.
It is important to strengthen the international positioning of our Union, as we're trying to do so with the Eurasian Economic Union. The main task in the industrial sphere is to intensify cooperation in the field of import substitution. A lot has been done here. We figured out a lot that we didn't understand just 2 years ago. No one can bring us to our knees. On the contrary, we mobilized our forces and achieved a lot.
On Monday in South Africa, former President Jacob Zuma has been suspended by the ruling ANC party, in which they vowed a legal challenge against a rival group campaigning in his name. ANC Party Secretary General Fikile Mbalula announced the decision, stating that the behavior of Zuma and others is contrary to his values and principles. This decision was widely expected and will be seen as a sign of disunity in the movement ahead of this year's general elections, where the ANC has long been the dominant party and would lose ground. Mbalula, in addition to suspending Zuma, said the ANC could file a complaint with the Electoral Court to get the new party's registration annulled and filed a trademark appeal to recover the name.
The NEC concluded that exceptional circumstances exist to justify and warrant an immediate decision to suspend former ANC President Jacob Zuma in line with Rule 25.60. The NEC took note of the announcement by former ANC President Jacob Zuma on 16 December 2023. He announced that he will be campaigning for another political party and further launched a series of vitriolic attacks against the ANC and its leadership. Zuma and others whose conduct is in conflict with our values and principles will find themselves outside the African National Congress.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.